because we've had quite an interest in political policy down the years, from we were sort of the genesis of the Labour Representative Committee to being expelled by the Labour Party to back in Germany, so our sort of political history has been quite interesting. And I was just thinking, the last time I was in the Irish Centre would have been back in the summer of 2022. Can you remember 2022? We had that summer, the summer strike wave, where we had the posties out, we had the teachers out, we had the healthcare workers out, and we had all the railway workers out as well. And you know, I've been on the picket line since 5 in the morning, and then Jeremy come down, he was there with Ian Mearns, and then we had this thing at the Irish Club in the afternoon. And you know, I came up after the picket line, and you were kind enough to allow us to speak, and you know, got a fantastic reception. Then I had to nip off to another picket line in the evening, up at our maintenance depot, up at Heaton. And you know, I just wanted to say, you know, I didn't think, you know, here we are in 2025, and you know, Jeremy was a Labour MP at the time, and now you know, we're on the verge because of you know, setting up our own party. You know, just how quickly things can change. You know, things never stay still for long, do they? Yeah. So, political history of my union. We were formed in 1871, and we merged with other unions to become the National Union of Railwaymen in 1913. And then in 1990, we merged with the National Union of Seamen to become, as you know, the RMT. But back in 1900, you know, we were a very democratic union, and a lot of our members were, you know, itching for political change. You know, back in them days, it was all the, you know, the landed aristocracy who were in charge, and you know, the Houses of Parliament were packed with all the directors of all the, you know, the great and good captains of industry. In my industry, on the railways, all the directors of the big railway companies, they were all sat in the Houses of Parliament. And so we're like, well, we need, you know, a voice of working class representation. And you know, back in 1900, people were like, you know, oh no, just that's never going to happen. Just stick with the Liberals. You know, we'll be all right. You know, we'll get, you know, some small increments in you know, standards of living and things like that. But it came from a resolution from a branch, you know, that we need a voice for ourselves. And from that resolution from a branch, we had the genesis of the Labour Representative Committee, which became the Labour Party. And you know, fast forward a couple of decades, you know, we had our own MPs in Parliament. Can you imagine that now? Genuine working class people from a trade union background as MPs. You know, what do we get these days? We get these policy wonks. You know, they've got the degrees in politics, philosophy, and education from, you know, somewhere like Oxbridge or something like that. You know, what lives have they led? You know, the struggles the working class have. They don't have a clue. You know, it's the careerists. You know, how much money they can make, and well, certainly for the Tories anyway. Yeah. And so, you know, we had you know, we were affiliated to the Labour Party for a number of years. And then, you know, back in the 90s, obviously we had, you know, Anthony Wedgwood. Not Anthony Wedgwood. That's a good guy. I'll just call him Tony Blair. Tony Blair. Yeah, that's a good one. Tony Benn's good. No, Blair. Yeah. We'll both. Anthony. Yeah. Quite a bit of a difference, wasn't it, Jeremy? And so, you know, Blair come in, got rid of Clause 4, you know, the beginning of the end, shall we say. And then in 1997, can you remember when we all thought that things were going to get better? Well, they certainly didn't get better for the members of my union. We've just had the Tories that privatised the railways in 1994, and you know, there was all these, you know, oh, we'll renationalise it and all this other sort of stuff. Never came off. You know, especially considering John Prescott, who was a deputy Prime Minister. He used to be a member of my union. He was in the National Union of Seamen. He was one of our sponsored MPs at the time. And it's a funny story, but we had a flat for him where you know, he could stop over when he was down from Hull and stuff like that. And our General Secretary at Tyne, Bob Crow, kicked him out of the flat. And he says, you know, why are we putting you up? Why are we putting a roof over your head? Why are member subs going towards you? when you and your party are doing everything, you know, against our members. You know, it's not in our interests. Why would we give you money? And Bob used to say, when he used to write the affiliation checks to the Labour Party, he used to feel as if he'd been mugged. It's like, why we're giving money to, you know, the Labour Party when they aren't representing our views and stuff. And you know, you've got to remember, like, all the terrible stuff, you know, PFI, which we're all still paying for these days, that went ahead, you know, with all the sort of daft neoliberal ideas that they had, all the outsourcing and things like that. And you know, they even sort of started to privatise London Underground. They privatised out the maintenance, which was an absolute disaster. It cost billions in PFI costs, and it collapsed within a couple of years, and the taxpayer had to pick up the bill and came back in-house. So, you know, to say our union wasn't happy with the Labour Party, you know, it's a bit of a misstatement. And then, you know, sort of, as the years went on, and you know, we got re-elected and stuff like that, and it's like there's no change of direction, none whatsoever. You know, things are getting worse. You know, things weren't getting better. And it was in 2003 our union took what was called the Scottish turn, where our members were so disillusioned with the Labour Party that they wanted to back other politicians. And so some of our Scottish branches wanted to back, do you remember the Scottish Socialist Party? People like Colin Fox, Tommy Sheridan, I think at that time anyway. And you know, they wanted to basically back those who back us. You know, that's our straightforward political strategy that we've done, is we'll back those who back us. And so because of that, we got kicked out of the Labour Party, and you know, it was you know, a difficult time and things like that. But you've got to stay true to your principles. Why are you backing a political party that doesn't have your interests at heart and is going against everything? So we were sort of non-affiliated, we were independent, but that policy of backing those who back us meant that we could back the decent MPs amongst them, such as Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell. We've got a good group around us in the RMT parliamentary group, which John McDonnell was currently the chair of, and before that was Ian Mearnsey from Gateshead. And we also backed, we could back other political parties. For example, we wanted to back the Green Party. I mean, obviously the sort of you know, surging in the polls, or whatever, and there was new leadership and things like that. But you know, a few years back, it was only Caroline Lucas who was the only Green MP, and you know, we backed her. And General Secretary Bob Crow, his sort of dissatisfaction with the Labour Party was so much that he, with some other trade union leaders, I think Mark Sawatka was on board at one time, wanted, you know, we need this working class voice. We need to have a sort of a new mass workers' party, and you know, so there would be conferences and stuff like that. And we sort of set up sort of a vaguely sort of trade union left-wing umbrella type party. We ran in European elections under No to EU, Yes to Democracy. That was quite a snappy name. And then we also sort of got behind the Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition. Again, you know, independent socialists, people like that. And I think they were the biggest left of Labour challenge in elections since the Second World War or something. And we had a lot of you know, ordinary RMT members stand for them and things like that. And so you know, fast forward to 2015. I mean, can you believe 10 years ago this man here was the leader of the Labour Party? You know, and if he was still the leader of the Labour Party, can you imagine how much better everybody's life in this country would be? So, you know, finally we had a decent leader of the Labour Party, and there was calls within my union to re-affiliate. I think the likes of the Fire Brigade Union, they re-affiliated as well. And being a democratic organisation, our union, we had a special general meeting, and it was a very close vote, but we decided to remain, you know, not affiliated to the Labour Party, to continue to back us. And we've continued that, and that's still our current political policy. And when I say we back voters, we back us, the man down the years who's backed us the most is probably this man sat here. He has been on every picket line, every demonstration, you name it. And can you remember a couple of years back as well when Keir Starmer said Labour MPs weren't allowed to go down to a picket line? Can you believe that? The Labour Party. Well, you know, some of the decent ones, Jeremy obviously, he ignored that. Some of the local ones we had, Ian Lavery obviously, he ignored that. You know, there are still some good Labour MPs. So, you know, we've had, you know, experience of trying to set up a new party and stuff like that. And I think we all have. I mean, how many times have we been, you know, to some rally somewhere and, you know, I'm just trying to think down the years, like some Left Unity, Ken Loach's thing. What else have we had? Respect, the Workers' Party. You know, there's always been, you know, something somewhere that we all think is going to be the next best thing, don't we? Where it's, you know, it's going to be, you know, our socialist saviour. And you know, there was a time when Jeremy got elected. You know, we thought that vehicle was the Labour Party. I mean, was it 600,000 members we had in the end, Jeremy? You know, the largest political membership in Western Europe or something like that. All these young people going in, like some momentum and stuff like that. All infused, you know, and then we had that 2017 manifesto. Can you remember that manifesto from 2017? What a cracker manifesto that was, wasn't it? It's absolutely superb. But we'll never see a manifesto like that again, sadly. You know, we know what the Labour Party is about. There's a lot of disheartened people. So just think, they've been in power now for 18 months. I mean, we're all sick of 14 years of Tory austerity, and it was like, great, we finally got a Labour government. Things are going to improve. But it's like, it has just been such a disappointment, hasn't it? Such a disappointment. It's been in 18 months, and you know what have we had? You know, the winter fuel poverty. You know, proposals to cut the disabled benefit to 2-child benefit cap, things like that. And as a trade unionist, you know, Jeremy did a lot of good work with the likes of Laura Pidcock and Andy MacDonald, who was an excellent Transport Secretary, on employment rights. And, you know, we've got the Employment Rights Bill going through Parliament and stuff like that, but it's just so watered down. It's like unbelievable. You know, all the goodness, and it's just like turning into sort of like, you know, 3.2% disco piss, you know, you get it from the bar or something like that. And they've totally capitulated to the bosses about extending workers' rights and stuff. They've listened to them more than they've listened to the trade unions, so that has been a massive disappointment for us. And for my union, one of the biggest disappointments is, I'll turn around, like I said, I've come straight from work, is a Labour Party policy on outsourcing. You all remember the likes of Angela Rayner. I was at Toll Puddle and places like that when she's got up on the stage and just, you know, best, you know, workers' rights are going to be brilliant and all this other stuff. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it's just, you know, it's just been so watered down. Where's the repeal of the anti-trade union laws? You know, stuff like this should have been done in the first 100 days of the Labour government, and we're still waiting. And you know, this outsourcing is just a complete racket. The company I work for, other than the train crew, everything's outsourced. All the cleaners are outsourced. All the catering's outsourced. So they might wear exactly the same uniform as me, but they don't have any of my protections of terms and conditions. They don't get pensions. They don't get sick pay. So that's why we want them brought in-house, because outsourcing, you know, it's no life to live on an outsourced job. It really isn't. And so you've got Labour Party policy saying, you know, about we're going to bring in everybody in-house and stuff, end outsourcing. And recently my union wrote to Kim McGuinness, you know, absolutely, you know, terrible what went on with poor Jamie Driscoll, absolutely shafted he was. And I'm sure Kim McGuinness is a nice person. Well, she looks good in photos anyway. And we wrote to her saying, you know, what are you going to do about these poor cleaners on the Tyne Metro that she's got responsibility for?
On absolute poverty pages, poverty wages, no terms and conditions, what are you going to do for them? And she sent us back this nice letter about her shiny initiative, about, you take this box and you get a little thing from the mayor saying, you're a great company, you've been awarded a shine mark or something like that. Absolutely ridiculous. So you can understand why our members, feel very negative sometimes about the Labour Party. It's sad, it really is. Right, so I'll wrap it up, but I just wanted to say, on your party, look, it's been a bit of a difficult birth. I think we can all acknowledge that. It's not been smooth sailing. There's different factions, there's different blocks. Look, it's left-wing politics. This stuff's always going to be there, right? But the key thing is, we've got to get it off the ground. We've got to put the squabbles behind us, right? There's millions of people out there who are relying on a new left-wing party. All those in poverty, the disabled, the elderly, the kids. What sort of future are we going to have if we don't do something about it? And starting up this your party, whatever form it takes, I'm sure it'll be democratic and it'll be member-led. It's not going to be top-down, it's going to be bottom-up, and we'll all be able to have our say in its direction. But we've got a packed room here this afternoon, right? Come May, I want to start and seeing packed council chambers with your party councillors. I want to see people putting themselves forward whenever the next general election is as your party MPs. The answer out there isn't the likes of Farage, and just blames everybody. It's always somebody else's fault. That's not where the solutions lie. The solution lies in socialism and backing the left wing your party. So let's go from this meeting and we'll take things forward. And we're all fed up. But let's start the fight back. It begins now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you so much to the RMT for showing what unions can be and can achieve. We're going to take just a 2-minute comfort break if anybody wants to stretch their legs. And most importantly, I've been reminded several times, fill in the forms so you can put them in the box at the end. Then we'll be coming back for the Q&A. I just want to stress that this is going to be questions and answers. If you want to have a debate about policy and feed into documents, that's upstairs at 4 o'clock. So I'll be very tough on this. Questions, not speeches, okay? So just take 2 minutes. Well, let's make it 5. Let's make it realistic, and then we'll be back to question and answer. Okay, while everybody's getting settled, a reminder that we're doing a bucket collection at the end. The collection will be split between Stop the War and Medical Aid for Palestine, both causes close to Jeremy's heart and to all of ours. Just to remind you, if you want to contribute to your party, you do it online. So we're not collecting for your party today, we're collecting for Stop the War and Medical Aid for Palestinians. So if you drop anything you can spare in the bucket at the end, please. Reminder again to please fill in those forms so that we know who was here. And we're now going to start the Q&A. As I said earlier, this is questions, it's not speeches, it's not debates. There is plenty of opportunity for debate at 4 o'clock upstairs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take questions in threes, and my very able assistant at the back there, Shamel, is going to be coming around with a microphone so everybody will get a chance to be heard. So if you could put your hand up, please, if you would like to ask a question, and I'll take it from there. So first off, person in the black cardigan, we're all there, behind Ed. And then Shamel, if you would go to the back row, the guy with the green and black head scarf on. Who else has got their hand up? Yeah, oh yes, I tell you what, we'll do you. I'm going to come over here for the next section. That was going to make more sense. Right, so would you like to go first?
Yeah, so I'm Ellie from the organisation, the Revolutionary Communist Group. And I want to pose a question to Jeremy. So in 1991, President George Bush forced a debate in the United Nations General Assembly over his 1975 declaration that Zionism is racism. He said, to quote, "To equate Zionism with racism is to reject Israel's right to exist." A member of good standing of the United Nations, this body cannot claim to seek peace and at the same time challenge Israel's right to exist. Would Jeremy please say whether he, like the UN once did, equate Zionism with racism and therefore oppose Israel's right to exist given its establishment as a racist, terrorist and genocidal entity?
Okay, next question was at the back. Guy with the scarf and then the guy with the red collar.
Hello, good afternoon everybody. Nice to see loads of people here. My name is Johnny Gaddis and I'm a Your Party member and I live in Wallsend. Given that the North East figures show 100,000 children living in deep poverty, meaning that their family's income is far below the poverty line, and that over 60,000 children are in very deep poverty, a rate in 2024 about 35% of the regional population, according to the North East Child Poverty Trust. Because of this trenchant and growing UK regional inequality, should your party's primary priority at the outset be the political economy to ensure that success is on the doorstep and in the ballot box? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Miskin, and maybe the question may be a bit left of field, but I'd really like to hear what Jeremy now thinks in retrospect about the relationship between our country and Europe.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come in on the first question because I have to say I was expecting that this might come up. I did a little bit of research in advance and I understand that the Revolutionary Communist Group have been coming to a lot of meetings. As Jeremy said, everybody's welcome, everybody's made to give a point of view. But I wanted to give a quote that I read about this. Those who are attacking the most steadfast supporter of the Palestinian people in British politics are straying into sectarian madness which does great harm to the Palestine movement and the left more widely. The Palestine National Movement has never asked the West to decide what kind of state there should be or to debate political solutions. Instead, the movement should build mass support for Palestinians' inalienable rights, self-determination and return in order that they might be free to decide for themselves. So people who really care about the Palestinians and Palestinian rights, and it is Jeremy who has been the most steadfast supporter for so many years, will be focusing on that and not making policy for the Palestinians. So Jeremy, would you like to come in on the other questions that have been answered? Will you answer them first?
Sorry, do you mind? The RCG are very busy and obviously very well resourced because you turn up at every single meeting and ask exactly the same question at every single meeting and get exactly the same answer at every meeting. It's quite simple, it's like this. I support the Palestinian people. I recognise the Zionist project of the Greater Israel and the danger that's doing to Palestinian people. We're in solidarity with the Palestinian people, as the Chair explained. That means you solidarity with the people to decide their own future, not us doing it. And the question from our comrade from Wallsend at the back.
I'm sorry, but we live in Britain.
I'm sorry, I've given an answer. I'm giving answer to the other questions now. The question at the back I'm going to now deal with is about. Do you mind not interrupting? Do you mind not interrupting? Do you mind not interrupting?
Right, you have had the answer. I said that this is not about debate, it's questions and answers. And you, the man who told me on a vacancy basis, are still welcome to you, still let you ask questions. If you want to be productive, stay. If you don't, leave. You are not going to disrupt this meeting anymore.
The question which was raised at the back is absolutely central to the whole point of your party. We live in a more unequal society than there's ever been in my lifetime. There are more billionaires than ever before, as I said earlier, and there are more people now living in desperate poverty, and that poverty has got progressively worse ever since the austerity budget of 2010. And that plays out with the mental health crisis, with starvation of children, plays out with teachers paying kids to get lunch and stuff like, or snacks and so forth, and it plays out in all kinds of areas of poverty. Housing, cost of living, and all the other services necessary, and it plays out into creating a very miserable and very divided society, in which the far right then try and blame it all on refugees. I think everybody knows this is utter and complete bunkum and nonsense. And so it's up to us to work with those campaigns to demand an end to the two-child benefit cap as a start, to demand an increase in disability benefits as a continuation of it, and to demand rent controls in the private rented sector and proper investment in council house building as a way forward. And the point I also made in the speech, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, is that unemployment is now rising because we have a government that's not prepared to intervene on the economy, and we have the tragedy of youth unemployment rising very, very fast, or youth underemployment. We also have, and I'm sure many of you go to food banks or know people in them or will help in them and so on, you know perfectly well that there are many people who actually what are seen as quite good jobs, working in the NHS or elsewhere, which in the past would be seen as a good place to be, are doing 2 or 3 other jobs in order just to survive in society. And so if Rachel Reeves wants to do something good in her life, then she's got a budget in which she could do something good. My fear is they're going to do the very opposite. So we're going to be doing a lot of publicity, social media comments, demonstrations and meetings and so on between now and the budget. And indeed, I'm doing a big rally in Manchester the night before the budget. And so what I would urge you to do in Newcastle is do exactly the same all across the North East. So you build up to it. So we're then making those demands that we as a party will not give up on the fundamental message, which is about social justice, is about equality, is about investment. That means a wealth tax, that means an increase in capital gains tax, it means an increase in corporation tax, and it means a new top rate of income tax. Wouldn't it be great if she got up? Just imagine, John McDonnell was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, got up and said, we are raising the tax payment threshold from 12,000 to 15,000. We are taking, therefore, several million people out of tax altogether, and we're introducing a new top rate of taxation to pay for it. That's the kind of policies we're going to be putting forward, and that's the sort of justice we're going to behind it. On the third question on Europe, that sounded almost philosophical, thank you very much. Yes, the Labour Party and the Labour movement had massive issues surrounding Brexit or otherwise. As you know, the majority of Labour Party members were voted to stay, remain in Europe. The majority of Labour voters, well, the Labour voters were actually quite split on it, and so it was a very hard area to deal with for the party. What I tried to do was to say that we would try and reform the EU, because I was very against, for example, the ban on state investment. I was very against the way they tried to privatise the railways through the fourth rail directive, that's the one, and we're still paying the price of that because the government's accepted open access on that when they shouldn't do, as for an example. Anyway, the result of all that was that I'd hoped that had we won the 2019 election, we would at least have a trading arrangement with Europe, And I think that has to be the way forward. I'm not in favour of trying to rejoin the EU. It wouldn't happen anyway. What we have to have is an intelligent trading relationship with the EU and a much easier way of travelling to and from Europe, because these things are actually important, and working with the left across Europe. And so I do work with the left parties across Europe. I was in Italy 3 weeks ago speaking at a big anti-racist conference they were doing there. I work with Podemos in Spain and with Die Linke in Germany, and I would hope that your party, once we've fully established, will join the United European Left in order to work with them on a common working class agenda all across Europe, of working class solidarity, because actually many of the businesses that we're dealing with here are also active in France and Germany and so on. But we've also got to get a united voice all across Europe, not pandering to the far right, not conceding ground to them, but standing up for the rights of asylum and the rights of people to be able to live safely and decently in a European foreign policy that isn't about going to war all over the world, that's all about investment and bringing peace all over the world. That's the kind of European agenda I want.
I'm going to take the next three, and I promise to take 3 people from over here. So green jumper, guy at the back, and then over here on the left, please.
Thank you very much. I've joined your party. I really want to see the party succeed. However, I know from when you were leader of the party, the establishment is completely against you. They're going to try and attack you at every opportunity. So I think a lot of people here were quite upset to see the public spat between you and Zara Sultana. I don't believe everything I read in the paper. It would be nice to know if you could tell us, would it be possible for you to have a publicly appear together and show more solidarity, because it's more important, the movement, than any differences.
Hello, I'm Jeff Abbott. I'm a UCU rank and file member at Newcastle University. We took all-out strike action earlier this year. We took 45 days of all-out strike action against compulsory redundancies. And let me say unequivocally that we won. We won with a guarantee that there would also be no compulsory redundancies this year. So my question is, you know, should we stand in solidarity with the junior doctors to defend the NHS? We also need to stand with all the press groups. I mean, Stand Up to Racism. We need to stand up for refugees. We need to stand up for transgender and non-binary people. Does everyone agree with me that we should be at the blue carpet this Saturday at 11:30 to oppose the far right? They're throwing Nazi salutes. As other people have said, they're not there to defend women and children. They're actually got a really bad record. 50% of the rioters who were far right had been done for domestic violence. So. Would the panel agree with me that we need your party not only to be an electoral party, but to be on the streets? And to answer the previous speaker's question, what we need to protect your party, to protect politicians like Jeremy, like Zara Sultana, is to have a mass movement on the streets. And the way we do that is we build an anti-racist movement. We support every strike. We need to support the junior doctors, and that will cement our relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. And then there was the last question just over here on the left.
Hi, I'm John Barnett. I'm a retired nurse. Have 46 years. Seen the health service decline over that period of time, sadly. But my obviously sweetening at the moment is destroying it even more. One of the things that I think is essential that your party needs to do is not be swayed by lobbyists. You need to either ban lobbyism or get rid of it somehow, because that's where corruption sets in.
Okay.
So that's what I would like.
I think that's a bit of policy. Thank you very much. I'm just going to take advantage of having the microphone for a minute to start with a little bit answer about obviously Jeremy will come in on the specifics, but I think what is really important for us as a party is to remember that this party, this movement will succeed because it is all of us. And sometimes the obsession and the focus on leadership or who is the most important or what is happening, that is a very right-wing approach to think that that is what matters in the end. What matters is that all of us stick together and all of us together. But we're not asking them to get it right, we're going to get it right. Thank
you. Just on that point, it's your party.
Thanks. On the three questions, first of all, yes, obviously, crucially anti-austerity, and I made that very clear, I think, in the economic statement, and indeed the founding documents of the party do say all of that. They're not the last word in detailed policy, that will come, and that's why I think commissions such as the one I suggested on disability, the same on health and education and so much, I think we can use the knowledge and strength of our entire supporting base and membership to develop very strong policies which can begin to change the agenda in the way that the disability campaigners did have a huge impact in opposing the PIP cuts, and that changed debate very quickly. So well done on that. On unity within the party, obviously there's got to be unity. Obviously there have been some problems, and I'm hoping that the finance issues that have had far too much public discussion will be resolved very quickly, and I'm determined to make sure they are, and I'm determined that the whole party will be able to present a united front, because what we have to do is remember we're not there for any of us individually. We're there because we want to create a serious, strong, collective political voice where we do absolutely support each other. And when people are going through difficulties like they are, like members of the BMA are, like teachers are, like so many others are at the moment, we're the go-to place to give support for all of that. Now, as to establishment and media attacks, yeah, I have quite a lot of experience of establishment and media attacks. I've had nothing but them, actually. At one level, they're designed to try to make you frightened and make you shut up and make you change your politics, and they're designed to diminish the individual at the other end of it. It's always a difficult call. How far do you respond to the lunacy of some of the attacks that there are? How much do you take them on and do it? And how much do you allow them to distract you from what you're trying to achieve? So what I would like us to get a message out, we're the ones who are not offering the same neoliberal economic agenda as the Tories, the Labour and the Lib Dems. We're not the ones who are offering the same austerity economics cuts in social spending of those three parties. We're not the party that's walking away from the environmental agenda of sustainability by 2030, and we're not the ones that want to go to war with people. We want to create peace around the world. So we set ourselves apart straight away. And your point about lobbying is absolutely right. I co-authored a book last year with a number of people. Lara did a lot of the work on putting the book together, called The Monstrous Anger of the Guns. The book comes from the Wilfred Owen First World War poem, What for those that died as cattle? What tunes were played for those that died as cattle? Only the monstrous anger of the guns. That was soldiers dying in the First World War. We called the book that because all those arms trade lobbyists, that 2.4 trillion a year that's spent on arms, ends up being used somewhere and ends up with people being killed. That lobby power changes policy. I'll give you a slight digression, but it's I think an important point. 1990s, Berlin Wall had come down, Warsaw Pact had been dissolved. That was a point when we could have moved as a continent much more in the direction of the Organisation of Security and Cooperation in Europe and away from the idea of a military standoff with Russia, Soviet Union and so on. I got invited, because I was obviously active in the peace movement, to all these discussions at the Royal United Services Institute. Every one of those discussions was led by somebody from an arms company who said, well, Mr. Corbyn, it's all very well to think about peace, but shouldn't we instead be looking at the potential for conflicts in the future? didn't. So they got a big map out and started working out where you could have a war. I said, are you guys all completely mad or what? And they said, no, we're just being very serious about it, and we think we've got to... I said, look, hang on a minute. This is the golden chance and opportunity to actually reduce defence expenditure all across the world and actually invest in social causes, invest in ending social injustices. And so for a while there was a bit of a reduction in arms spending, and it all started going up again with George Bush, Project for a New American Century, and all those people. And so we're going to have a tough time standing up for a kind of genuine social justice peace agenda. But if we believe in it, and I absolutely do, we're going to have to stand up for it. So there will be no space for lobbyists in yourparty.uk. There will be no space for commercial influence on it. And when I became leader of the Labour Party, the big donors all said they didn't want to contribute to the party anymore, and I said, well, that's absolutely fine. And they didn't. And you probably didn't even realise this, halfway through the 2017 election, we actually completely ran out of money. We had no money at all. And so I didn't want to go out and say we hadn't got any money, because that would have been a big story. I just went out and did an appeal. And we raised, I think, £2 million from an average of £25 donations from people across the country. The biggest donations were like 50 quid, things like that. You can raise money from ordinary people, you can raise money for good causes, and that isn't buying influence, that's just you contributing to the cause for everybody else, and that's got to be the base on which we do. On the issues you raised, about the strikes going on, yeah, I'm going to be on a BMA rally tomorrow in Hackney, Homerton Hospital. I absolutely support the BMA, and I thought Wes Streeting's remarks about them are absolutely disgusting and disgraceful. He's one who's quick enough to praise doctors when there's ever a kind of emergency on, and somehow or other now he doesn't seem to realise that people that study for 7 years then can barely afford to live because the wages are so low and the hours are so long. Come on. We need to value our doctors, value our nurses, and value everybody within the NHS, and pay them properly and stop the privatisation.
We've got a limited amount of time. I've got one question that has been submitted by somebody who's actually a delegate who wasn't able to be here today, who's going to be a delegate to conference. I'm going to take 2 more questions, and then if there's time I'll take some more. I'm going to go to that side of the room because I haven't looked there yet. So at the front there, and then I'm going to go to the back. So right at the back there, and then in the 3rd row, sorry, the 4th row.
Girl in green.
Yep. Yeah, girl in green in 4th row.
Okay, Alan McFadden, have we thought yet about all of this money that's being spent on arms? The government have already created a pool of millions of young people without work. It seems logical that their policy will be conscription and pushing our young people into the army, which is extremely dangerous. Secondly, I just want to say, comrade, please don't believe what you read in these papers. Unity is strength. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so we're going to have a question from the back, and then actually, Jamil, do you want to go to the girl in the green jumper first and then to the back?
Hi, so my name is Isra Mohammed. I've been an anti-racism and anti-Islamophobia activist since I was 15 because I was forced to do it due to bullying following the Paris attacks in 2015. I also ran for Labour Council in 2022. I was the youngest black woman to run in my area in Gosforth. And I would definitely say I was very naive because many members of Labour did not want me to stand. They didn't believe I would win because I was black and not because of the policies I was fighting for Gosforth. So I wanted to know, what's your party going to do for young people who want to be involved in politics but are never really supported? Thank you.
Right at the back, there with a red scarf, red white scarf.
Yeah, got you.
Hi, my name's Ali. So Jeremy, you're the kind of face of the kind of movement that's developing around your party. I was interested in what specific policies you think that your party should be fighting for. Obviously, it's going to be a democratic movement, but I would be interested in finding out what it is that you want to see come out of your party movement in terms of policies and positions.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to quickly go through the question, and I'm also going to say we are in contact with 4 of the delegates who've been chosen by a sortition for the Your Party conference, because we were already organised in Newcastle, so they were all already coming to meetings. If anybody else has been chosen as a delegate and we don't know about you, please make yourself known if you're willing to talk to people and get feedback. So Catherine Smith, who will be attending, has a question that I'm going to read out on her behalf because she wasn't able to make it today. A lot of us are ex-members of the Labour Party and suffered from the constant diktats from the General Secretary. We were instructed on what we could and could not discuss, to the point it made meetings impossible. Because of this, seeing the appointment of a General Secretary and officers in the planning structure of your party is something I, and I'm sure many others, are wary about. My question is, who will be making these appointments? Who will they answer to, and how much power will they have? Thank you.
I'll deal with the last one first. Catherine, if you're watching or able to listen, thank you very much for your question. My view is that first of all, we will be electing some kind of national committee after the conference, which will obviously be responsible for the work of the party and responsible for the employment of people. We will have to employ some people to do the work. At the moment, for the record, nobody has been paid anything in the establishment of this party. All of the incredible amount of work relating to the conference and so much else has been done completely by volunteers, and I want to just say thank you to all those volunteers that have done so much to bring this about. Secondly, I think the principle has to be that important people that will be doing the equivalent of a national official job, the Labour Party equivalent would be the General Secretary, should be elected, not appointed, so that they have a direct accountability. And thirdly, the idea that we would employ a General Secretary who could then start writing to branches saying you're not allowed to discuss X, Y and Z is utterly absurd. We're not going to do that. I mean, it's absurd in the Labour Party, and we're absolutely not going to do that, because we want the party to spend its money and its resources on campaigning. I'm very nervous about the idea of spending too much money getting offices and buildings and stuff like that. They don't change things. What changes things is the mobilisation of people. I think we'll need a small office somewhere to house people, but that's as far as it needs to go. We don't need anything too big. And how we develop policies is crucial. My priority, and this was the answer I gave to one of the earlier questions, has to be on economic justice within our society. Therefore, we're going to be the voice for jobs, increasing benefits and so on, and also the voice for public ownership. But this again, look at it differently. I would imagine if we put it to a straw poll in this room, pretty well everybody here would be in favour of taking the water industry back into public ownership for fairly obvious reasons. £72 billion has been taken out of the industry and paid out in profits and dividends and big sinecures for chief executives and things. And as a result, we've got the dirtiest water, the most polluted rivers, and we're destroying the sea around our coasts. Every piece of pollution, every piece of sewage that flows into our rivers is actually the profit that's been squirreled away to a tax haven by somebody that's made money out of our water industry. Those people are the ones that are causing the pollution. So it's got to come back into public ownership. I challenged the government on this and they said, no, we're regulating it. I said, listen, we've had 35 years of regulation, and last year alone we had 300,000 sewage discharges into English rivers. In 1 year. That's an awful lot of discharges. And he said there is no solution to the water crisis that can be dealt with by the private sector. My God, what a lack of ambition and so on. My view is We take it into public ownership. We retain the river basin system of water management, because that is a sensible and logical system. But we don't appoint a board by the government to run it on the old nationalised industry model. Instead, we create a model which is of workers' control, which is of community control, which is of involvement of the Environment Agency, which is the involvement of local government. So we all have some say in what happens in all of the water companies. And that will mean you have better management. It will mean you've taken the ability of people to take money out of the industry away from them. So all the payments then go into investment in the water supply. It also means that if something dreadful happened, like another Margaret Thatcher arose in 20 years' time, they wouldn't be able to privatise it because it would be too popular. In the same way that when they tried to privatise the Forestry Commission, they couldn't do it because people loved the Forestry Commission and loved the forest. So we want to develop a democratic model of ownership. Now, we don't have to wait until after an election to do that. Bring together everybody all across the North East, everybody that's dealing with the same water company, and say, okay, how are we going to do this thing? Start putting the pressure on, start working out the model, start using the expertise that's there on it. The other areas of economy I've talked about earlier, my other two personal priorities would be international policies of peace and justice and reducing arms expenditure in order to invest in the needs of people, and absolutely support an international human rights agenda, and totally oppose Farage in his attempt to take us out of the European Convention on Human Rights and the European Court of Human Rights. I used to be a member of the Council of Europe, where we appointed judges to the European Court of Human Rights. I support the principles behind it. It's part of our law. It's not a foreign court. It's part and parcel of our legal system, and from that we get an awful lot of rights of assembly, free speech and everything else, all of which are under threat at the present time. So let's not walk away from those things. Last point on the environment. I know it's becoming less popular than it was to say this, but we are polluting the planet. We are destroying nature. We are damaging biodiversity. Ultimately, we damage ourselves. And so we have to have an environmentally sensitive approach. And I thought it was very interesting yesterday, outside COP, there were tens of thousands of demonstrators of people from the Amazonas and other rainforests in Latin America saying, please recognise what we're doing to the world's climate and recognise the damage it's doing to us now and you next. And so we have to embrace that environmental agenda, but it's absolutely not about cutting living standards and cutting jobs. It's about refiguring investment in sustainable industry, sustainable jobs, and also longer term, let's work on the technology that's available for all of us, which is sort of unbelievable compared to what I grew up with. Use that as an opportunity to cut the working week, to cut the time of work. Your union has done a great thing in Transport for London, demanding a shorter working week. Absolutely support that. Those are the kind of areas we can move in. Sustainability, and sustainability by decent income levels for people to actually take the stress out of life by a shorter working week, obviously without any loss of pay. Those are some of the areas I'm looking at. Thank you.
Question on how younger people will be supported.
Sorry. Will you forgive me? My apology. Yes, we obviously want to work with young people, and that means we need to set up youth forums and youth sections. It means we need to have a form of communication that makes sense to young people. Meetings, conferences and so on are not necessarily the form of communication that happens. In my own community, we have one of our regular forums is held in a college during the middle of the day. A lot of college students, some of whom are on day release and work, some of whom are there full time and so on, come along, and we have a discussion and debate about lots of things. I want an autonomous, self-governing youth section of your party, and those people will then come forward on campaigns on education issues, and I'd love to see us develop an education policy which is about taking the competitiveness out of education and bringing education as a whole away from the market and into democratic control and understanding. And so it is about working with the young people to achieve all of that. And the selection of candidates has to be done within the party. The basis of it has to be that we want a broad range of candidates. We want candidates who are dedicated and committed and will actually stay the course and speak up in their local authorities, parliaments and wherever else they're going to be. And that means making sure that we also put forward candidates that represent the diversity of our society. That is our answer to the racists, that we are practically the answer to the racists because we don't behave in that kind of way, and we will support those people, and we will not tolerate any form of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, far-right racism, or anything else within our party or our society. We are the voice for bringing communities together, not dividing them apart. That's the difference between us and Reform.
Thank you so much. Sadly, we have come to the end of time for this meeting. I'm sorry if you didn't get a chance to ask a question. There is a chance to go upstairs and have a further debate if anybody wants to do that. I'm going to do some plugs. I'm going to remind you again to fill in the forms. Bucket collection at the back for Stop the War Medical Aid for Palestinians. Coach to London on the 29th of November for the International Day for Palestine. Another plug for Cramlington train workers. Our history is important. And last of all, I'd just like to say thank you very much to the speakers. And again to Jeremy for giving his time and how much he's done for our movement. Thank you.
Just give it to the desk.
Your party. 1, 2, 3.
Your party! Can I just remind people as well, signatures for all of us women who want to fight the far right and show them who's in charge. So Alison will be outside getting the signatures there. Thank you.
Yeah.